Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. My name is David and today we're going to review a Shell Cordovan from the Italian company ROCADO. So a few months ago I bought this Shell Cordovan online because I wanted to test it out, see how it felt and how it behaved while working with it. I've got some experience working with Horween, Clayton and Shinky shells and felt it was time to try out a new Cordovan leather. And so the leather I bought was actually a small one and it was going to be my first time working with a marble piece. Now friends, before going forward, I just want to take the time to thank you all for your support you've given me so far and invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. I post videos on leather crafting projects, leather product reviews and unique leather crafts, so if this sounds like something you would like to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be the first ones to know whenever I upload a new video. And so with that being said, let's move on with our review. Now it's very hard to explain how this leather feels if you've never had a Shell Cordovan product or worked with one before. And if you're watching this video, chances are that either you have worked with Cordovan leather in the past, are planning on working with it, are familiar some way with it like owning a pair of Cordovan shoes or a nice wallet, or at the very least have heard of it and want to know more about it. And I say this because this is a very rare leather that you're not going to find easily in a mall or physical store. This is something that you buy because you're familiar with it or at least have researched enough to make the decision to buy it. And because of this, I divided this review in 4 sections. First impressions, which includes a description of the leather, how it feels working with it, a comparison with other Cordovan leathers, and my final thoughts. So hopefully this review gives you a better understanding on this specific leather if you're planning on getting a piece of ROCADO shell. So let's start with the first impressions. When I received this leather, my first thoughts were how nice and even it looked on its main surface. There were no scratches or marks of any kind other than the marble tones from the color of the leather. It felt very smooth to the touch and was very shiny. As for the backside, it was also very beautiful. The stains were more visible, the contrast between the black and natural colors of the shell gave the leather a very dramatic look, and of course the company stamp was also a big plus on that side. I actually like the backside that much that I'm planning on getting another piece in the near future and craft something using the reverse side as the main one instead. Another thing that strikes me at first was the smell. Contrary to other Cordovans I've worked with, this leather has a sweet chemical smell. Again, it's hard to describe, but compared to the other Cordovans I've worked with, this is how I would defer its particular smell. So for instance, Horween Shell Cordovan has a more earthy smell. It gives me the impression of being outdoors in the wild, whereas ROCADO gives me the impression of being in a luxury store with a slightly sweet aroma. Now moving forward, working with the leather was an absolute pleasure. It cuts smoothly and has a nice roughness to it that helps the leather maintain its form even at the very last part of the cut. If you've ever cut a very soft leather, for instance, with a knife, you might find that right at the very edge of each straight cut, the leather can move slightly, making your piece to have an irregular cut, which in some cases can actually ruin it, and it's simply best to cut a new one. This Cordovan leather maintains its structure and you can be sure you'll have a nice clean straight cut as long as you have a well sharpened knife. Gluing the leather was also easy. Since the backside of the leather has a rough surface compared to the front, it adhered well to the glue. However, the front side of the leather is very polished, so if you're looking at gluing front to front sides together, I suggest you sand them first with a 100 grit sandpaper. When polishing the edges, you can use some burnishing gum like one from Toconole and make some friction between the gum and the leather edge with a small piece of canvas until you see the edge shiny enough. However, if you don't have any of these tools at hand, you can also use some water and a piece of well-polished wood to burn the edges and it will give you a very similar result. The only downside of doing this is that in time you'll need to burn the edges again more frequently than with the burnishing gum that actually seals and protects the edges of the leather. Finally, when it comes to stitching the leather, doing so is extremely relaxing, especially if you're using some diamond chisels and a well-waxed thread. Unlike Crompton leather, this Cordovan pine punches clearly and straightforward, leaving nice pronounced diamond holes on each punch to let any threads pass comfortably without having to worry if the holes are going to break or prone to damage, as with some very thin Crompton leathers. Now, when it comes to comparing this leather with other Cordovan ones, there are a few similarities to consider. If you've been following the channel, you'll know I've mostly worked with Horween and Shinky shells, and what I like about ROCADO leather is that it combines the best of both leathers in their hides. To understand this better, I need to quickly explain the characteristics of each Cordovan leather separately. Horween leather has a very natural feel. in every sense of the word. It feels flexible, soft, in some cases even oily in the back, and has a very earthy smell. The front side is not the most even and polished of them all, but is definitely one that will age most beautifully. The back side of this leather is smooth and almost suede-like if you grab some suede leather and compressed all the fibers tightly together. Cutting and polishing the edges of this leather is like working with butter, and it's smooth and relaxing. It just gives you a really nice feel of accomplishment every time you cut a piece of this leather for your projects. It also gives you a sense of calm because for its price, you need to know what you're doing. Horween leather is among the most expensive ones, especially the rare colors, which by the way are not easy to find. Shinky Shell on the other hand has a very smooth and even front side. It's one of the most beautiful front sides you'll see on leather. It's evenly polished and has no imperfections whatsoever. However, if you're into this natural and earthy feel on Cordovan leather, the backside of the Shinky Shell will most likely be a complete disappointment to you. It feels fake, absolutely fake. It's almost like if it had a layer of fabric glued on the back. Not to mention the edges of the leather, which do not polish as nicely as the other Cordovan leathers do. As for the patina, this is also a leather that I've seen very little patina over time. It seems to keep its same appearance through time, and patina is actually something beautiful and well sought after, which can make this leather not a good option if you're looking for that. However, if you line this Cordovan leather with some thin Sherwood goatskin, for example, you can have a really nice leather piece in your hand. Just a side note, Shinky Shell doesn't smell at all. Now about the Clayton shells, there's nothing much I can say about it. I've only used it once, however I can tell it is very similar to Horween. In fact, out of the four, this is the one that is mostly similar on appearance and working experience. Now with all this in mind, the best way I can describe ROCADO is, imagine a huge pot, put all the ingredients or characteristics I told you about Horween shell, and add the smoothness of the main side of the Shinky and just replace the earthy smell of the Horween with a sweet tannery smell. That's ROCADO Shell Cordovan. I would say it's 85% Horween and 15% Shinky, in other words. Before moving to my final thoughts, let's talk about the price, and this is one you're going to like. From all the Cordovan leathers, this might seem to be the best value offer out there. And I say might seem because this is going to be very subjective to your personal preference on Shell Cordovan. However, ROCADO has the great advantage over the other ones that its supply is much easier to find than Horween, as well as the colors and sizes. And because you're basically taking the best of other shells in one, with an even and more affordable price on it, it's definitely a huge plus to this leather. Prices vary depending mainly on the sizes, but you can get a shell piece for as little as $70 on Rocky Mountain store. I've never seen a Horween shell at that price. Usually I've seen them at $150 to $100 on eBay or Etsy, and only on black and burgundy color, which is also known as colorate. And as for Shinky, their prices start off at $124 more or less on Rocky Mountain. So what are my thoughts on ROCADO Shell Cordovan? In summary, it's an amazing leather and truly incredibly good option that should be in the radar for any leather worker that is looking to work with highly exclusive leathers to offer exceptional pieces to their clients. This Cordovan leather has been for me so far the best cost value option I've seen until now, and is one that I'll definitely continue to work with. Now of course with this I'm not telling you to go and buy one of these leathers just like that on this review. In fact, this review is not sponsored by ROCADO or any other Shell Cordovan companies. Rather, I want to give you my honest thoughts on the product I've already used so you can have a better idea of it and hopefully helps you analyze your options and decide on whether you get one of these leathers or not. So friends, with that being said, hopefully this review has been helpful to you. I appreciate your time and feel very thankful with you for joining me in this video. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. It means the world to me and helps me bring you more videos like this one. I also post videos on handmade leather crafting projects that you can follow yourself if you're looking on how to work with leather. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.